up, beautiful people, and welcome back to the channel. You know the brand, P&Z Life Coaching. You know the man, Coach Mike James, and I'm back again. I'm so excited because it's been a while since I've done an interview on either one of my interview series here on my YouTube channel. But I'm excited because I share this often that I have a natural bias to coaches because I think there's a superpower in the different vast areas and niches for coaches. And that power, I say it's a superpower in coaching of presence, right? To hold presence and space for someone. So I'm so excited about this one. Another impactful conversations. This has been good as someone who I've met and connected with from social media and just really love the way that you do social media and your reach. It's interesting to see how now as a entrepreneur in a business, you got to be social media savvy. And I definitely would say that your page and how you handle social media definitely got my attention, and which is what made the connection happen. And I reached out to you. So I'm so excited. So without further ado, again, I'm just elated because it's been a while. So this is going to be great. So take a moment and just introduce yourself and just tell my audience who you are, and any other information before we get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike. This is an honor to be asked to be on any sort of platform to share my story and what I do. And I just reaching people is what I want to do, to help sort of bring down the stigma and the shame and the embarrassment that we can feel in dysfunctional relationships. So my name is Bre Wolta. I'm a relationship clarity coach. And I do just that with clients. So I really help them find clarity around confusing relationship situations and relationship patterns. So we can work with anything from not being sure what a healthy relationship even looks like, or if you're in one, to, kind of the other extreme end of having left a situation with maybe a narcissist or someone on the narcissistic scale, and you're like, how the hell do I heal from that? Like,
Right.
so different varieties of types of clients, but all around that, just helping them find clarity.
Awesome. I love that. And as you know, Brie, of course, a lot of relationship coaches out there, but for me now, again, it's that reticular activated system. You get more of what you focus on. So
Yeah.
now you see that car that you want to buy, and now you see it
Yeah.
everywhere, or you buy it. So for
Yeah.
me, I haven't seen a lot of coaches just focus in terms of the way you do it and you bring it out, specifically focusing on those either in or recovering from toxic relationships and being able to recognize that. And like you say, whatever that path forward is for them. So that's one of the things that caught me too. And look, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. We're going to talk more about it, but
Yeah.
everyone watching, I encourage you to connect and just to see how you handle the content of relationship clarity coaches. So I'm just going to big up you right now and say, everyone, make sure you connect. There'll definitely be links in the description, but thank you again, Bree, for doing this. And I'm excited to get into it. So I'll start where I always start.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain things, right, that always gets us to this point and who we are. And I like to start at the beginning. So just take a moment to share with us your background, like early life and upbringing, and kind of what began to bring you to this point in the adult Bree today.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, how much time do we have?
Right.
um, I'm a native of Colorado. I still live in Colorado. I'm sort of one of those unicorns that have haven't left, and in one of the only like locals, not one of the only, there's a few of us, but Colorado and Denver specifically have like blown up as this popular place to live. So
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of people from other places. So it feels kind of cool to claim the title local.
Right.
Um, and I love it. I love Denver. I love Colorado. I'm a mountain person, a summer mountain person. I don't winter sports in the mountains.
Okay.
um, but hiking and just being sort of in the immersive power of nature that way is always really healing for me. So I love it. I will probably stay here for a while. Growing up in Colorado, all my family is still here. I grew up in a divorced household, so spent a lot of time, back and forth in kind of that situation. And one of the unique parts of my upbringing and my parents' situation was they actually tried to get back together multiple times while from the age of about 4 to 20. It was pretty back and forth and pretty chaotic in the unpredictability that you would experience as a child, sort of in that situation. So had a little bit of instability and chaotic nature there, coupled with another family member who struggled with addiction for a good part of my formative years. So a good part of my life I spent sort of in that caretaking role. I was sort of thrown into, codependency in the way that we learn to survive. So
Mm,
because my environment was so chaotic and unpredictable, I survived by creating a lot of maladaptive behaviors and patterns, which worked for me then. And as we know, when we get older, those patterns start to be less effective in, when we're not needing them for our survival, whether that's physical survival, emotional, mental, emotional, all the different types that we have.
mhm.
So it really set me up to be a pretty codependent person. And throughout my like romantic relationship years, I tended to attract men who were not emotionally available and that I could take care of, because that was my role. I was very familiar with being the rescuer and being the one who kind of took care of everything and had their shit together because no one else had their shit together. And really was creating my childhood circumstances, which I didn't quite like piece together until
Yeah.
much later in life. But was kind of, my friends would joke that I'm like always attracted to the bad boy, or the boy that, like, the guy that doesn't want me. Like, why are you so obsessed with these people who can't give you what you're looking for? But before I started any sort of mental health journey or healing process at all, it was kind of like, you don't understand that because that's what so that's what you're
Mhm.
going to attract. So fast forward a few years, I went few, in between, in and out of relationships, and was always feeling a little bit unfulfilled, and picking these men that I could sort of, projects is a big word, but it felt like that, right? Like I needed to
Right.
take care of them in some way. So what really kind of catapulted me into the work that I'm doing now is this last, the previous relationship that I was in with an ex, where it turned out really toxic. And I didn't know that while I was in it. And I was in it for many years too long. But when I finally kind of came to that realization, it was kind of like, it was such a overwhelming and confusing process. So a lot of my passion for what I'm doing now stems from not only that experience, but also having lived in, kind of this unhealthy coach-esque, um, way, like, role, I guess, in my
Mm.
family. People ask me how long I've been a coach, and I'm like, what, my whole life? Like, I kind
There
of.
you, that's it. Look, I love that, Bree. I think I shared with you that I teach for the coaching school that I got certified through, and that's one of the things that I always share with the students and the coaches that come through the certification course.
Yeah,
I got it directly from my mentor. And that was one of the things, like, if you're unsure, right, of that, answering that question as a coach, because,
yeah,
it's experience and people want to make sure, is
mhm,
this the right person? How long have you been doing this?
yeah,
And the answer, I tell people, you literally all your life, because that's the key. And even what you've been sharing, it's our life experience. And
mm,
that's why the umbrella term for what we do is life coaching. It's
yeah,
the life experiences and our passion and the things that make us who we are
Yeah.
that gets us to that point of wanting to coach in the first place. So it's like, how long have I been doing this? All my life. How long have I been certified or had some alphabet soup behind my name? That's a different story. But
Yeah.
I love what you said. It just made me think of it. It's like, yes, I love it. So for all you coaches out there and anyone in that space of the helping fields, how long have you been doing it? All your life?
Mhm.
So
I was always told as a kid, as a teen, as a 20 something, it's like people would always kind of single me out and share everything with me. Like they would just divulge and afterwards almost feel a little like embarrassed and be like, I don't know why I did that. Like you just made me feel really safe. And I don't do that consciously. Like it's just something that I have in my nature, in my
mhm.
energy. I don't know. But it's always been that way. And so it really works to the advantage of being a coach now and doing this as a profession, because feeling safe is you have to feel safe with the person that you're trusting your story with in order to
Yeah.
make any sort of change.
Right. Yeah. And that's definitely, it's like almost the foundation, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's, it goes back to what I said. I'm biased because I think that is the superpower of coaching is that presence, but also creating, holding, and maintaining that safe space, for sharing and collaboration.
Mhm.
So I love that. So Bree, you mentioned like when you were talking about your upbringing.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that period of time where your parents are trying to, get back together and make it work. And then you kind of bridge to this last relationship that you had that really led, kind of maybe had some light bulb moments in there. So what were some of those impactful moments, whether it be in that span of time from 4 to 20 when that was happening
Mhm.
or that last relationship? What were some of those impactful moments that stood out to you of like, okay, this is drawing me, now that you look back at it, right? This is drawing
Yeah.
me closer to what I'm doing today. What were some of those impactful moments?
Yeah. Well, the reason that I attracted my last partner, the toxic relationship in the first place, was because of all of my conditioning. So, being really primed to be in that helper role and to be in sort of I didn't know what my needs or my wants or my values
Mm,
were. I didn't know how to speak up. I walked on eggshells. I was good at walking on eggshells. It was sort of the perfect environment to attract a person who is likely on the narcissistic scale. I don't know that for certain, but there were behaviors that were pretty undeniable. Um, and and that type of person is attracted to typically somebody who doesn't have any boundaries, is pretty empathetic, who is malleable. And
mm,
that word can feel really sad, right? To think of yourself as like a malleable person, but I wasn't necessarily taught the structures that I should put in place around my own energy, my own boundaries, like my own protection. And so those were skills that I didn't learn until after I left that relationship. So, as far as like impactful moments that sort of led up to the most impactful situation for me, it was a lot of these just like laying the groundwork of the behavior that I was willing to accept in a relationship, which allowed me to attract this person who took advantage of that. And
mm,
so the impactful moments and the ahas started to come when the the love bomb phase was over. It was like the
mm.
beginning of the relationship was this euphoric, like too good to be true. It was everything I wanted, everything I liked. We did. We were going on, national or international trips, like within a couple of months of dating. Um, a lot of excitement, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of addiction is what is what it felt like. And that's really what I attribute these relationships to, is we are addicted to this up and down chaos because of the way that we grew up. It's like chaos is what we
Mm.
know. Our
Yeah.
nervous system is like primed for that unpredictability and the highs and the lows and
Hmm.
all of it. So when that phase ended and things started getting more real, it was really confusing for me, because I was like, what, this isn't like the person or the situation that like it started to be. And that's when a lot of the gaslighting came in, and a lot of manipulation from him came in, on top of me already trying to justify the red flags
Mhm.
and talk myself out of what my intuition knew was not right. But it was like that voice started getting quieter and quieter, and like like more silenced, because it was too painful for me to accept my reality. I equate this place, or I call it potential land. And it's
Mm.
sort of this dissociative place that we go to in relationships like that, where that place is full of hope and full of, the relationship getting back to the way that it was, or the person starting to treat you properly, or with respect in general. And we live in potential land because if we let go of that hope, then we have to like make a decision,
Mm.
if we're going to
Yeah.
stay in the pain that's happening in real life. So I lived a long time in potential land, like a long time. Um, and looking back on that, it was a really valuable experience for me of, again, like, we can't live for the potential of people. We have to acknowledge what they're giving us right now. And there's a difference between holding on to hope and seeing someone make steps towards change.
Mhm.
If they were working towards therapy or couples therapy or whatever, and like things were progressing, that's a different story. But when you're just holding on to the hope and being shown over and over again that's not what they're interested in, that's where the pain and the like clinging to that desire comes from.
Mm. Wow. That whole segment right there that you just shared, I think in and of itself can be healing for many
Mhm.
watching, because I think even how you started out with that of what allowed me, or kind of that catalyst or maybe force behind the scenes working
Mhm.
me getting into that last relationship in the first place was my conditioning.
Yeah.
And so many times in life, I think it's so hard for us to look at that realization that my conditioning is what caused a lot of the choices and the things and the situations that I'm in now. And so that right there, I think could be so healing if people would just take a moment to breathe and sit with that of like, okay, what has been my life story to this point? And then it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm repeating a pattern, right? Or something that I
Yes.
haven't tweaked. And
Yes.
even that potential land and like not changing your address from potential land
Yeah.
in the right
Yeah.
amount of time can lead you to living in pain land. I
Yeah.
just a lot of analogies came when you said that. So yeah, thank you for explaining that, and just the to be open with, and another reason, I think I told you this when we connected the first time, that's one of the other things that I loved about when I connected with you. I'm like, wow, the vulnerability in how you share and what you share, that alone can be healing for, I know, so many people that may watch you and say, okay, I'm not yet ready to talk with Bre, but watching her is healing in and of itself, because it's
Yeah.
speaking to what I'm experiencing, and what I know to be true. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. I think
One
that's
of
huge.
one of my favorite experiences is I talk to a lot of people who follow my page through the DMs, and I always reach out to people who follow the page because there's a reason that my
Hmm.
content is resonating, and I love when I get ghosted for like 3 or 4 months, and then I reach out again and they're like, yeah, I couldn't watch your content or like respond to your message because I took him back again, and now it like hasn't worked again, and now I'm ready. And
Mm. Yeah.
like that's so part of this process.
Right.
And sometimes we have to go back many, many times before we understand in our like our soul, that we're making the right decision to no longer try.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my clients and a lot of the people that find themselves in sort of this revolving door of dysfunctional relationships, they go back because they have such a big heart for the person, and
Mm.
they see the person's potential, that only if they wanted to change, like, they could be great, and they have this like bleeding heart, you know, and want, of course, the relationship to work out because they loved them at one point on some level, and like giving them so many, you know, all the benefit of the doubt. So much benefit of the doubt, and often the other partner, whether it's a male or female, is sort of playing to that advantage, right, and giving a lot of empty promises, and
Mm-hmm.
they get back together, and the first couple of weeks is like euphoric, and then it's just like tanks again.
Yeah.
And that experience, that going through that, is really painful, but it's, if for those people who are watching, like if you're in that, it's normal to like want it to work out, and it's just a matter of you knowing when you're ready to stop trying to get a different solution from the same
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. That awareness of, hey, it's time. Ding. It's done. Take it out of the oven. It's
Yep.
time. So yeah,
Yep.
that's so true. So you talked about it right there a lot in terms of um what you're doing, but
Mhm.
for a moment that kind of led to the next question, like what is your idea of impact today? what
Mm.
what, what is your idea of impact and how that shows up in your adult life?
Mm. For me, for people who have been impactful for me, they have been people who have planted seeds.
Mm,
So whether I was ready to hear the thing, or actually like act on whatever it was these seeds that they planted along the way from people that I respected and who were a little bit like farther in the journey than I was.
mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm sure everyone's had that experience where you've heard the same thing probably 100 times, but then one person says it to you in the exact right moment, and it's like, like,
Yeah.
it like blows your world up of like, how did I not understand this before?
Right.
Um, and I've had a lot of those experiences with various friends or mentors or colleagues, and it's something you can't even plan or predict. It
Yeah,
just is
that's
so
true.
organic and genuine, and in the exact right moment that you need to hear it, like the teacher will appear, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that understanding of how when we're ready, the universe will meet us with whatever it is we need to like get to the next step.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's so true because I explain that too a lot in classes. Is like, listen, if you the coaching model, right? If you just lean into giving that advice, sometimes it still won't help because
Yeah.
how many times have you been talking to someone that maybe it's a family or friend, someone who
Mhm.
come to you for advice and different things, and they can all of a sudden say, "Oh my God, Bre, you know what? I just this just came to me." And they say something that you've been saying verbatim for years
Yeah.
or months. And it's like, oh, really? I
Yep.
wonder how you came up with that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I'm happy for you.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yep.
like you said, that idea, that whole, the African proverb of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's like you can
Mhm.
tell someone till they're blue in the face, but
Yeah.
until they're ready, it's like, oh, it's that aha moment for them.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
impact, and as you explain it, so what it means to you, what are you working on to create that impact? Because you
Mm.
talked about the impactful moments for you is or
Yeah.
impact as an adult is planting those seeds. So what are you working on or doing that creates that impact?
You touched on it earlier, and it's the art of vulnerability, really.
Mm,
It's being able to share my story and my truth and my knowledge and my wisdom because of that story in a graceful and delicate way. So, I'm not out to like smear my ex and to like drag him through the dirt, but like the experience that I had was incredibly painful and emotionally abusive. And so it is impactful for me to share the story because so many women and men experience partners like this and think that they're the only one.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
messages all of the time that, people go back and they watch the highlight reel on my Instagram and they watch my story and they're just like, "Oh my God, it's like you were telling my story." Like how like and they're just in awe that A, someone else had the same experience, and B, that someone is talking about it. Because part of what happens specifically in relationships where you're being gaslit is slowly being you're being manipulated to believe that your reality isn't right.
Mm.
And the more confused that you get, the more you pull back from your friends and your family and people who can actually like check you on that reality, and the more isolated you feel. And so, by the nature of gaslighting and the nature of even if you're not on the extreme of gaslighting, like if you're keep going back to the same type of people, there's a level of embarrassment and shame that comes from that. Where you're like, why do I keep picking this asshole? And all
Hmm.
your friends are fed up with you picking the asshole. And it's like,
Right.
so you almost invariably like end up in this cocoon, kind of like
Mm.
stewing in your own shame and embarrassment. And so for people to see other people talking about it, I think is really important to normalize it, to show that, it is conditioning from your childhood that leads you to continue to choose these people and these patterns, and also that there's a way forward. So
Mm-hmm.
I love sharing my story, and I created the method that I use with clients from all the things that I did to heal, because like I am my first walking testimonial. Like I have integrated the experience and I can now
Mm-hmm.
speak to it and share, what was helpful, and that there's hope. Like when you're in the thick of it, it's like I'm never gonna find a healthy person. I'm gonna be stuck feeling alone and anxious in my relationships, and relationships are just hard. I hear that all
Yeah.
the time, and that was a belief that I had too. It's like relationships are just they're supposed to suck. Like
Right.
they're
It has
supposed
to
to be
be this
hard.
way.
And while I believe that relationships take work, healthy relationships take effort, they take work, but they shouldn't be hard. They should be easeful with periods of, you know, conflict that is resolved. It
Hmm.
shouldn't it shouldn't be baseline hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's the norm.
Yes.
Hard, sucks, draining.
Yep. Yeah.
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 Wow. So with that, and then so okay, so Mike, you said, how you connected, and I don't even know what it was. Maybe it was a reel
Yeah.
when I first came across
Probably.
your page, but let's talk about that for a moment, how you've
Yeah.
been able to and talk about impact.
Hmm.
Um, lucid living with Bre. What what I know, well, I assume a lot of it is what you've already shared, that past relationship, but at what point did it become was it a point where it was a different name or business, whatever? What brought you to your approach now with social media and what you're doing, and the impact that I believe is that you're making greatly with your page?
Thank you. Thank you. I I avoided reels for a long time. I was like, I don't need to do reels. Like, I don't want to do reels. I'm not good on camera. Like, whatever, the limiting beliefs were. Um, and I believe the things that we're most resistant to are the things that are going to propel us forward
Mm,
the most.
yes.
So when I finally got comfortable with reels, and now they're fun. Now I'm like, I love making reels. And they have a wider reach just with the message and how, I don't know, the algorithm changes every 5 seconds. So I don't know,
Really?
but
Exactly.
um, so I had been wanting to start some sort of coaching business, and had no idea what that was going to look like, or my niche, or who I wanted to work with. And then I went through the breakup, and it was like a crazy 6 months of like survival.
Mm.
And when I came out of that, a friend of mine connected me with a business coach, and she's like, I think this would be a good time for you to like put some attention somewhere else, and it was through working with her that I really got clear of like, oh, this is a population of people that I get, like, I know. And so she was pretty instrumental in helping me understand social media, and then how to like use it as a business tool,
Mhm.
because I want my page to be a resource. Like, I write all my own content with the intention of it being valuable, whether or not people are actually signing on as clients. I want my page to be somewhere where you can go and learn about gaslighting, or learn about boundaries, or learn about relationship red flags versus green flags. It's like, I want it to be useful, and that's kind of the intention I put behind what I put out.
Yeah, I mean, and it shows now. Maybe I connected with you when you were already at the stage of enjoying it and having
Yeah,
fun,
yeah,
but
you
it
did.
really shows, right? Because I don't know about you, but you almost can sense. I say intent is so important, right? Intention
Mhm.
and the intent behind doing something, because you can see stuff, and whether it's being unsure or not comfortable, it just it really bleeds
Yeah,
through sometimes.
yeah,
And so that was one of the differences, and one of the big things that stood out. It's like, okay, this is not just one of the biggest things you want to do right in social media spaces is add value, especially as a business owner,
yeah,
but enjoy it, right? Whether it's sensitive or hard topics to discuss, and we talked about, you being vulnerable in how you share, and even your story, and really
mhm,
being open to that, but the passion, it
yeah,
comes out, and it reaches out, right? And it's like, okay, here it is, here's the information. So I think that's huge too, when you can do that in a way that speaks to people, and especially your audience, but just people in general. Because that was one of the things for me. I'm like, okay, I didn't even, before I even went to your profile to see that you were a relationship clarity coach, I was like, energy.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'm all about, energy. And I'm like, okay, coach in the bio, follow, and it's
yeah,
like connected. And I think after maybe a month or two, I reached out to you, and so that is just awesome, I think, in how you do that.
yeah.
So, with everything that you've done to this point, and how you show up in the space and what you do, what's next? What's next for
Mm.
you?
Oh man. I I don't plan too far ahead, because the universe always like takes me on some like
Right.
trajectory. I'm like, if you would have asked me last year, or if you would have told me last year that I'd be sitting here with you right now talking about a business that I'm actively seeing clients and making money from, I would have been like, no, like,
What?
I'm not a coach,
Right.
I don't do, no, like, so I have these like cheeky moments with the universe often, and I love your passion around energy too, because I believe that when we're doing what brings us joy, when we're making the reels, or we're writing the content that we're passionate about, or we are doing a podcast, or we're speaking at an event, or whatever, like whatever we're doing that's taking steps forward in joy, it's like the next thing just like appears.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm launching another group at the end of August, and that's sort of like the most, like, the soon, or the not the soon, the thing that's happening most, what is the word? Not
Most
recently.
recent, yeah,
Um,
the most near thing.
yes, thank you. I don't total like COVID brain fart. I don't know if you've experienced the after
Oh
effects of
yeah.
that, but yes, that is what is next. um, and I am working, or I'm in conversations with a therapist and some treatment centers to actually put together like intensive 4-day retreats for the spouses of the person in treatment for addiction.
Hmm.
So part of what I kind of want to lean into is holding these retreats and holding these intensives for people with betrayal trauma, people who want, you know, a little bit more healing and understanding around narcissism and codependency and boundaries. Um, so I do all of my coaching virtually, and this will be like a tangent in person experience. So
Mm.
that's sort of like in the ether, in the works.
Okay, nice, very nice. So with that being said, and just again, I listen, I'm very intentional as well about um people who I big up because first of all, I say this all the time. How can you expect someone to support you when you don't support yourself? So
Mhm.
people who are passionate about what they do and they push it and they're working on it, I first that's number one for me. That's what
Yeah.
draws me, and I love that. And so now with that being said, and I'm telling people, like, guaranteeing that they will love your content, especially for those who are in any of those situations. Or
Mhm.
a lot of times people think about it's, well, that doesn't relate to me, so I don't need it. But if
Yeah.
you are in any relationship anyway, just
Yeah.
things again, like you said, not only the red flags, but the green flags. And
Yeah.
then also, guess what? Now, if I get that education and that awareness around it, at least I can notice some things when it's in the beginning stages, right? So
Yeah.
Bree, take a moment and tell people like all the ways they can connect with you and follow you and reach out to you.
Yeah. I will get to that in one second, but I just thought you just made me think of something. Um, Relationships aren't just romantic. So I also get people that reach out that are like, I have a narcissistic mother, or I've worked for narcissistic
Mm,
bosses, or
yes.
I'm like, I don't know what's healthy or not in my friendships. And it's typical that if we see ourselves in one dysfunctional area, that we
Hmm.
typically are dysfunctional in a lot of other areas, right? Because we're not like
Hmm.
different people with our friends versus our partner.
Right.
Um, so that the content can be benefited towards people who aren't even in a relationship, or maybe now in a healthy relationship, but have struggled in the past. You know, there's so many
Hmm.
ways that this you know applies to people. So just throwing that out there too, where it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship
Right.
that you're confused
Yeah.
around. Um, but as far as getting in touch, so Instagram is definitely my preferred outlet for marketing. So I am Lucid Living with Bre, and I'm sure that'll be linked somewhere here.
Hmm.
Um, I also have a website that is just my name, so brewolta.com. That'll be linked, sure, I'm sure too. Um, and I also do run retreats or help co-facilitate retreats outside of the ones that are sort of in the works. We go to Costa Rica every year and we do some intentional healing utilizing plant medicine. And so if anybody's interested in sort of alternative healing in that realm, I get to incorporate some of the cool methods that I use in coaching on the retreat as a facilitator as well. So just kind of a holistic options for people to be able to tap into, you know, the deep rooted stuff that keeps us operating in the ways that we're operating.
Yeah. Love that. Like that. I think that's beautiful. And the more I think we're just experiencing this shift where even those who are not wanting to move to that holistic approach,
Yeah.
we're moving to it anyway
Yeah.
because it works, it
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
And it's not just a one-sided thing.
Yeah.
Everything, we're one being with so many parts. And
Mhm.
so the mental, the spiritual, all of that, it comes together and to make us who we are and to deal with different things, right? Because
Yeah.
man, life life just be lifing. And so
Yes.
the more help we can get is
Yeah.
great. And even back to what you said, Brie, like for relationships, not just romantic relationships, but even
Yeah.
one thing that I like as well, and I've done already, is sometimes, guess what? You may know someone who
Hmm.
needs Brie.
Yeah.
You may know someone that just needs the information or to hear it. So that's
Yeah.
another reason to connect. So Brie, again, I'm just so excited we got a chance to do this. It's been in the works, and just I always look forward to what you share, and definitely the impact that you are making. So
Mhm.
I want you to just take a moment and whatever you have, message, take a moment to leave a message with the people. Any lasting thoughts or
Mhm.
something you want to leave the people with?
Yeah. Part of my intention around my work is to help you feel not only less alone, but less like reduce the stigma around like it's your fault
Mm,
that you're in these situations. Because I believe like none of us escape childhood or adolescence or adulthood without trauma, right? We all have some level of trauma that has impacted us and has shaped us and conditioned us. And if you don't identify those deeper rooted things, those beliefs and those thought patterns and those that familiarity is going to drive your life. And so to be able to take back the steering wheel of where you're going and how you're
mm,
doing it, looking at it is the responsible thing to do. And it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It doesn't mean that, you're 45 and haven't looked at it, so you can't start now. Like you can start at any age. And
right.
to be responsible for your trauma because we aren't responsible for what happened to us, you know? You may have had horrific things happen. You may have had just small things happen, like, and that wasn't your fault. But it is your responsibility now to address that and heal that so that you can operate in your highest self and you can not continue these generational or ancestral patterns that you were given. Like we really have this opportunity to stop to stop the shit that our mothers and our grandmothers or fathers and grandfathers have done forever. Like, it's like
Yeah.
just because that's what we were taught subconsciously or consciously doesn't mean that that's what we have to choose.
Mm,
So there's always there's always a potential to heal. There's always a potential to change. There's always support. It's just a matter of reaching out or finding it or, being vulnerable enough to ask for it.
love that. I love it, man.
Mhm.
Just take your power back,
Yeah.
reclaim it, walk in it. And I know that part of that, you know, intention, again, I say, is everything. So, and the intention here is that I hope this will start that journey for many, just
Mhm.
seeing this. So again, Bree, thank you so much for doing this, taking the opportunity. Of course, to everyone watching, make sure that you see the description information in the bio so you can connect. I mean, in the description, this is not IG, the bio, in the description so that you can connect with Bree.
Yeah.
And again, Bree, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me today, having this impactful conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for holding the space for impactful conversations to be had, Mike. This is a very cool channel and I love supporting people who are working towards the uplifting of humanity. And sometimes the uplifting comes from having these hard and impactful conversations and that's beautiful. It's all beautiful. So thank you for what you do.
Very welcome. Very welcome. Well, That's the mic drop moment. So for
Yeah.
everybody watching, make sure that you connect with Bre, and join us next time for another impactful conversations. Peace.